Good evening and welcome to Westock. Today is September the 30th and it's a beautiful early fall day, and it's also Orange Shirt Day, and a day where we're bringing truth and reconciliation to the forefront in our country. And so here on Rogers, actually, we're really happy to have some special programming throughout the day and the evening, like The Path We Walk. You can keep an eye out for that on your Rogers TV guide. And also Spirit of the Land, which is a special spotlight on Indigenous peoples, including a special segment on Crow Gulch, which we know of as an important area right here in the Corner Brook that was put together by Gian, our producer here. So check that out, a very important day, and really important for us to spend a few minutes reflecting on this today. Now, we've got a great episode for you. We've got two guests. We've got one in studio. We've got one joining us remotely online. But I'm very excited to have with me today somebody we wanted to bring on very early in this new season of Westock, and somebody we're very honored to have. Please join me in a big Westock welcome, because we've got newly elected Member of Parliament and the first ever female Conservative MP from Newfoundland sent to Ottawa, Miss Carol Anstey. Carol, thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here.
Yes. Now, we haven't seen each other so much since you've become the MP. Obviously, yes. You've got lots on the go. And so I just thought it would be cool to take 10 minutes to, I guess, update Western Newfoundland and the Westock audience on how it's been going for you and just have a little chat.
That's great. I'm super excited to be here, to be in the riding. This is my favorite place to be in this role, and so excited to join you today. So thank you so much for having me.
Very welcome. So as soon as you got elected, basically, it wasn't long before you had to just go straight up to Ottawa. Eh? It seemed like just a couple weeks, and then you're up there for whatever was on the go. I guess like orientation, MP orientation or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, so Parliament had been prorogued for quite a number of weeks prior to, and I think Canadians were anxious to see the government get back to work on some priorities that were at the forefront at that time. And so typically there would be a much longer space of time to let you get set up in the riding and get your staff in place, but we were short order called back to Ottawa. And there is a number of processes that you have to go through, and so you have to go through your swearing-in ceremony, and then you also need to get your office, and so that happened very quickly. I think typically there's about 8 weeks. Well, we jammed that all in about 2 weeks. Right. And
does that normally always happen like in the summertime after the election?
Well,
like in the same time of year? Or?
Yeah, I think it probably really depends on the timing of the election.
Right.
But as I said, I think the government was well in tune with the fact that Canadians wanted to see the government back to work. Yeah. And they didn't want to drag their heels on getting us back in Parliament. Yeah. And so there was all kinds of swearing-in ceremonies scheduled all throughout the precinct, one right on top of the other. And so it all happened really, really fast.
Yeah, and it seemed like no time then after that there you were standing in the House delivering comments, on behalf of all of us here in Western Newfoundland, which is a pretty crazy thing to see as somebody who knew you, knows you from before and during and all that. So can you just speak to that, what that felt like? Just so even thinking about it, it actually makes me a little bit emotional thinking about it. But I could sort of see the emotion in you as you stood to speak those first words. Can you talk about that at all? Like what that actually felt like, if it's possible to summarize that?
Yeah, so, well, it was a long journey to get there. And it was so much work, and there were so many people that worked so hard during the time of the election, and for many years. And so I will share with you, we get back from the speech from the throne, and it's the very first question period. And, we had some training. And so they tell me it's my time to rise. And immediately, of course, there was an instant amount of nervousness. Right. And I all at the same time, I was so excited to know that, I was going to get this opportunity right at the start to be able to get up and speak for the people of the riding. And so I pulled it together. My heart was racing. And what was so incredible about it is, as soon as I spoke about being the first Conservative woman ever from the province, of course, I got a great applause from my colleagues, and I so appreciated that. And so I got up and I asked my question, and my mom called me that night, and she said, I didn't have an opportunity. Who answered your question? And I said, Mom, I don't remember anything before. I don't remember anything after.
Yeah.
I just rose to my feet and I did my best, and I felt good about it. I was honored to be able to speak for the people of the riding.
Yeah, and that was a good warm-up, I guess, for what was to come, because now things are back opened up. Government's back in business.
Yeah.
And you're up there now advocating for the people of Long Range Mountains. So it's really cool to see. And is it possible for you to touch on, like, for people who aren't really politically engaged at all, how an MP really can, in what ways they have an impact on the day-to-day life of people, like within their ridings, the type of work that they get up to while they're up there, and the things that they're trying to achieve?
Yeah. So, I mean, as the official opposition, it really is our job to point out the gaps in the government's mandate, right? And so one of the things that I think Canadians are noticing in this parliament is that we recognize that Canadians are in a tough spot right now. And so we are trying to work in cooperation with the government to make sure that things are moving forward that we feel is good policy. And there's a lot of things coming forward now that we actually campaigned on, and so we want to make sure that these good solutions to the issues that we see are moving forward. But then we also want to make sure that the voices of people who are opposing some of the policies are being heard. So our role as parliamentarians is really to take all of the things that we're seeing in our own ridings and bring a voice to that up in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And being an opposition member, it's really important that, when people are still feeling the negative impacts of whatever the government's decisions are, that we're really making sure we bring that to the forefront. And so as an opposition MP, that really is my job, in the hopes that the government says, that's a valid point, and maybe we're going to shift gears and go in an opposite direction. So that's really our role, and that's how it can impact the day-to-day lives. So during the summer, it was really important to me to get back to these communities where we had a tremendous amount of support.
Yeah, well, it must have been hard, because you are now representing one of the biggest ridings in Canada, geographically.
Absolutely.
I mean, so it's from St. Anthony down to like Port-aux-Basques. So such a big area, and I really could tell, anybody could tell who was following along the journey, that you were going everywhere and you wanted to hear from everybody. And so now that you're in Ottawa, I know that things are a little bit different. You have offices set up, and the way that you communicate with the riding is a little different. But what is one thing that, if you can summarize the voice of the whole riding, community to community, what's one thing that you think seems to be a priority in every town, no matter if it's Corner Brook or the smallest community up the coast?
Yeah, the cost of living still remains the biggest difficult factor that people are contending with.
Everywhere you've gone, people
Everywhere
are saying
I've gone,
they're having affordability issues just with the basics.
Yeah, prices at the grocery store. A lot of people's mortgages are coming up for renewal now. We know that we're in the housing business,
right.
And so, in some cases, people's mortgage payments are doubling, and their dollar is just not going nearly as far. And so that has been the number one thing that I've risen and talked about, because it's something that I hear people are like, what support is out there? I can't afford to heat my home. I'm having to choose between medication and food, and it's difficult to hear these stories. And I think one of the things for me as a Newfoundlander, I've always felt that an affordable lifestyle is one thing that we've always been able to offer the people of the province.
It's supposed to be the thing.
You don't get a big movie theater, you don't get to go watch NHL hockey games, but you can live a good life on not a whole lot of money, right? Yeah. And I feel like that's slipping away from people, and it's a big issue, and it's something that the government needs to get control of. And so that's really the issue that we've been pushing on, is the cost of living crisis. And really, letting Canadians know that a big part of that is these runaway deficits that this government has, and with no real end in sight, right? And so, we're really pushing on What's the budget going to look like? We were told during the lead up to the election that, Prime Minister Carney was going to spend less. And we hear a lot of, spend less, invest more. Like, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
But ultimately, what does that mean for Canadians? And we know that runaway deficits eventually drive up the cost of everything. And so we're really pushing on this issue because I think there was an expectation that was going to get reined in, and that's really not what we're seeing. So that's why you see us talk about it so much, because it is impacting everybody.
Yeah, no, and it's a really tricky topic because here we are in Western Newfoundland, an area where we both need sort of like basically social services and assistance and programs and things like that in areas of our riding, but also we have this tremendous deficit and this sort of bloat. So it's like just the money is obviously out there in the world and in the government's ability to spend. It just seems like it could be done a little bit better. So I'm glad I think it's a good thing to have an opposition MP. Canada's big government, big Liberal government now, doesn't necessarily have Newfoundland in its forefront all the time. And also they have made some lofty promises to the Atlantic provinces, and now we have a Conservative MP to help keep accountability towards that and be a voice to make sure that we get what we deserve, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree. Another one that we're really in tune with right now, because some issues can be national and some things can be hyper-local. And so we saw back in 2022, announcements around fiber op and some promises made, and nothing ever came to the forefront. And so we're getting all these municipalities coming back now looking to see where these funds are, and re-announcements of the same thing from 2022. So this really gives us the ability to, ask the tough questions. If these communities were promised this service, where is it? And so we do a lot of that work as well. Yeah,
I can't help but smile, and I think you know why. Because I might have been at a big live stream announcement talking about how the improvements that are going to be made to our connectivity while the internet wasn't really good enough to even stream the announcement. So that's the reality of Western Newfoundland, but I'm glad to hear that that's changing now and hopefully about to change.
Yeah.
This is all of our time now, Ms. Anstey, for this interview, but is there just one last thing briefly you'd like to say to the West Talk audience, to the people of Western Newfoundland this evening?
Yeah, I would. I'd like to say that your feedback matters, and we're doing whatever we can to bring the voices of the people in our communities to Parliament. And so we send out newsletters. We also have all of our contact information online, and just to continue to reach out to us with your concerns, because it's our role to bring the voices and the opposition voices. And I want to be accessible to our communities, so reach out if you have events that you'd like for me to attend. I'm always here and available to our communities.
Awesome.
So, thank you so much.
And just one last thing, because I guess we can probably pull this up on the bottom. Before you're MP, a great way to reach out to you and get in touch with you was to just message you on Facebook. And now things are probably different. So what's the best way to reach out to your office and get messages through that are important? Yeah,
so we will have access to phone numbers as well as a general inbox, which I get all of the requests that come through there. So email is also probably a really good way to reach out. We don't monitor the Facebook page as much. So email and or call our offices.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming down.
And
if there's ever anything, important updates or any messages you want to share that you think is important for the riding, just let us know and we'll get it on.
Great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Awesome.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with our next guest joining us on the line. It's going to be exciting. Stay tuned. All right, my next guest is going to be joining us online, actually. Really excited to make a West Talk debut of this gentleman and perhaps even his wife. This week, Western Newfoundland is going to experience the return of one of our finest musicians to come up in the area and to go on. Mr. Brian Byrne formed his first band in Corner Brook back in the day with some people that we all might know and love, like the young Waterman brothers. And from there, from these Steady Brook and Corner Brook jams, went on to perform on huge stages all across the nation as the lead singer of I, Mother Earth. Of course, shared stages with big bands like Nickelback and Live and Cheap Trick, many others. And went on to have a very interesting artistic career, and now has formed a new duo with his wife, Tara. And together, they are bringing a friend, Andre Pettipas, over to Newfoundland for a series of shows, 2 of which are going to be right here in Western Newfoundland. Some really cool opportunities. So to talk about all of that in as much as possible in 10 minutes, Brian, thank you so much, man, for joining us on the line today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Brian, man, I just want to talk quickly about there's so many questions I would love to ask you, of course. I think we could do a 4-hour podcast, but let's just talk about genre. Talk about musically where things started out for you when you first started sort of jamming and playing, and then what that arc of genre and style looked like from the beginning and where are we with that today? If you can possibly explain that to the Westtalk audience.
I think, generationally speaking, I think I'm no different than anybody else. I grew up on a steady diet of what my parents listened to, what my aunts and uncles listened to. So there was a lot of, country and classic rock and, stuff that might have been like a little edgy at times from, friends of theirs, and I think that, as I became, like a teenager, of course, I didn't want to listen to stuff that my parents listened to because that was super uncool. So that started my exploration of, metal and, punk rock and anything that my parents didn't listen to and anything my parents didn't like. And so I think that, naturally that evolution is, kind of chasing down that road to begin with because, that's what you identify with, and that's sort of, forming your ideas of music and creativity. And you think that you're, all the stuff and that you're really original. And then you get to the, to the other side where you start to grow up a little bit and your palette becomes like, I don't know, like wider or whatever again. And you start to bring some of those influences back in and admit that you like it, like, like country and classic rock and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like it's like a coming of age thing, hey, for everybody.
Yeah,
it's like we go back to our roots always, hey.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that even, like all those things like that, like punk rock and metal, like that has roots in all of that stuff. Yeah. It's just that we deny it as, young people that think that we know everything.
That's right. We don't want to see the country in the metal, right? As we listen to it.
No, goodness gracious.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I mean, so you've really experimented with a lot of this and created sound, a lot of different genres, which I find really interesting. You've got a body of work behind that. And now today we've got this new act that you formed with your wife, Tara. And it's called Two. It's a duo. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to be delivering on this tour now in Newfoundland. It's more of like a songwriter style tour where I guess audiences can expect to kind of just like get to the heart of the matter with you. And how do these songwriter shows go for you, if you can answer that? And then also if you can sort of give the viewers, just to sum up my last question, where you've landed today with Two in terms of the sounds and the songs that you guys are putting forward.
Yes. So I think that, again, another thing that is a relatively natural thing is, storytelling. And anybody who grew up with me knows that I like to talk a lot. And my wife certainly knows that. And so I think that the singer-songwriter thing, it just feels very natural for us actually, for Tara and I both, to be able to connect and talk to people during the show and tell stories and, get reactions and, play the songs, because I find it, it's a bit more experiential to have all of that stuff. Sometimes when you play the big stage, there are things that are lost for me in the experience for the audience, I guess. So I really, really do enjoy this format. And I also really, really enjoy, folk and alt country, and have for years and years and years. And so to be able to write with Tara has been really incredible. And she definitely calls me on a lot of stuff when we work together, which is, healthy. It's frustrating sometimes for both of us, but it's still healthy from a creative, perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Oh man, that's so cool to hear, and I loved how you're touching on just venues and the size of the stage and the room. And I can imagine that over the years, you've had an opportunity to play some probably pretty cool rooms and some pretty cool stages, right? And got to feel the love of thousands of people in an audience. But from what I'm seeing about these songwriter shows, friends of mine who are musicians, they find they feel more love in these small intimate rooms, like these house shows and stuff. They're having these incredible experiences with 40 people instead of 4,000 or 40,000. How do you find that playing in these tight spaces?
Well, I couldn't agree with that more, and I know Tara feels the same, because I think that one of the things that it's great for things being immediate and efficient and whatever, but technology is for that reason, it's that tool. But we lost a lot of the connectivity, even though we're instantly and always connected to people, which is really odd. So these smaller rooms and being able to, like you said, like feel that vibe and be able to sort of like, just address one person in particular, it really, I think, adds to the show and the authenticity of the show. And even the stories that you tell, you feel like you're really connecting with people. So if somebody said to me tomorrow, we're going to give you 5 nights at a room that holds 100 people or something, I'd rather do that than one night for 500 or 1,000. And I just think that the connection and the takeaway for people who are fans of that is way bigger on the other side,
Yeah. No, I would have to agree. I think it's really the right song and in the right room just hits a different way. And when you can have this opportunity to be in the space, especially house shows. So like you've got this opportunity coming up now at the Vinyl Garage, which is a very special situation in Pasadena. And I'll just say, anybody who wants to go to that show needs to go directly and contact the Vinyl Garage and get the details. But that's that's a small, intimate sort of house show where somebody who is in that room on that night with you is really going to get to feel what you were feeling or thinking. Not only will they get to hear your thought process behind the song, but they're right there with you, as close as can be, just in this essentially living room. So I can totally appreciate how it would be even more intense sometimes artistically, maybe, to be playing in these small rooms. You can really probably feel people's emotion in the audience more. You can tell when you're hitting them maybe a little bit more, like when that connection's happening.
I totally agree, and I think too that honestly, it helps with it really helps with the sustainability of your career as an artist, because I think that when people feel connected to you and feel connected to the songs and feel like they had something special happen for them because they saw you going through something special, that they're just more loyal as a fan. And that's not, I guess somewhat, it's by design, but again, I think there's something very, real about it, that we both walk away with something very special.
Layered on top of that is the fact that these are some of the first shows you've done in Newfoundland, your home province, especially over here in Western Newfoundland, and like, from what I understand, well over 10 years, So what does it mean to you to be kind of making this homecoming in this way?
It is really a big deal. Tara and I, we kind of got busy with life. I mean, I know it sounds kind of silly, but we've got 2 boys and there are, almost 11 and 13, and we've been busy with them. I mean, Tara and I have been together for, 16 years-ish, about 16, right? She's really busy working on documents right now. So we've been together for a long time, and it's only recently that we decided that we would actually, write together and do this together, which is really strange because Tara's incredibly artistic. She's a, great photographer. She's a crazy visual artist. She's always been singing and playing. She step danced and played fiddle as a kid. And then we go, oh, okay, yeah, let's do this together. So to be able to come back, with our whole family, myself and Tara and the kids, and feel like it's a family affair, and again in these intimate settings with the songs that we've crafted together, and like you said, not having played here in 10 years, it's huge. I mean, it's really a big deal for us. Mm-hmm. So we take what we do seriously. We don't take ourselves seriously, if you will. And so
yeah, that's a really great way. That's a really great way to frame that, man. And I know in particular here in Western Newfoundland, you definitely are very beloved. And even I, coming up a little bit later in the game and music and entertainment, the band sort of scene around here now, you are always somebody who is mentioned and brought up. And still to this day, and always, for any person who is starting a garage band, and wondering what their opportunity is, anytime that conversation happens, Brian Byrne enters the conversation, because Brian started playing in Steady Brook, and look what happened. So I think for that is one of the reasons why there's a lot of excitement that you're back around. I know people are going to be stoked to see you, man. And a few years ago, just to put a bow on this, because we've got our producer's flashing a light. When I was the marketing and events manager at Marble Mountain there, just basically during COVID, we were doing a lot of asking around about who people wanted to see and what people's best memories were from around Marble. And in both of those categories, your name was coming up. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, man, I'm excited to see you this week for 2 great shows, Wednesday and Thursday night right here in Western Newfoundland. And is there any final remark you want to say as a good night to the people of Western Newfoundland here on Westdock?
Just bring everybody out. We're gonna have a great time, and it's mostly family friendly. I mean, my wife and I do swear like sailors on stage, but other than that, it's all wholesome.
Yeah, I love it, man. Yeah, we'll all do a little kumbaya now this week with Brian. So thank you so much for joining us, and have 2 killer shows here on the West Coast.
Thanks, Dustin. Take care.
Thanks. And that was Brian Byrne. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back to wrap up this episode. Stay tuned. And that's it for this evening's episode. Thank you very much to our guests, Ms. Carol Anstey, our new MP, for giving us the rundown on her time up there in Parliament so far, and as well to Brian Byrne, who joined us on the phone on behalf of himself, his wife Tara, and Andre Petitpas. If you want to see Brian in this Songwriter Circle format this week in Western Newfoundland, you have 2 chances. Thursday night at the Hugh and Draw Hotel. You can just call and make a reservation. No charge, just go out. It's going to be wonderful. And you can reach out to the Vinyl Garage in Pasadena about a special opportunity you might have on Wednesday night. That's it. Have a good evening. We'll be back next Tuesday with another Westdock. Loves you. Bye.
If you have a comment about this program, we'd love to hear it. Email or call us, or send us your feedback through social media.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
This is Rogers TV.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends,